Tobias and the Magic Nail. In a quiet village at the foot of the Misty Mountains, there lived a carpenter named Tobias. Known for his skillful hands and patient heart, Tobias could mend almost anything made of wood. Villagers would come to him with creaky chairs, broken doors, and splintered tables, and he would bring them back to life with his delicate touch and keen eye for detail. One evening, after a long day of work, Tobias was tidying his small workshop when he noticed an old, dusty box hidden in the corner. It had belonged to his grandfather, a legendary carpenter in his own time, and Tobias hadn't dared to open it since it was passed down to him years ago. Intrigued, he wiped off the dust and carefully lifted the lid. Inside was an assortment of odd and ancient tools, each one more mysterious than the last. But among them was one thing that immediately caught his eye: a thick iron nail. It was unlike any nail Tobias had ever seen. The nail was intricately etched with runes along its length and gave off a faint, almost unearthly glow. Tobias turned it over in his hands, marveling at its craftsmanship. Something about it felt alive. Curiosity got the better of him, and he decided he would try it out the next morning. The following day, a young woman named Liana, known for her large family and even larger heart, came to Tobias with a request. Her family's dining table had grown so wobbly it could barely hold their plates. It was a simple table, rough and unvarnished, and the family relied on it to gather for every meal. She didn't have much to pay, but Tobias took pity on her and promised to fix it. Once he had the table in his workshop, Tobias inspected it carefully. It was old and well-loved, but with enough work, he could save it. As he set his tools down, his eyes fell on the magic nail lying on his workbench. He hesitated, then decided to try it out. He placed the nail where the table's leg needed reinforcement and tapped it gently with his hammer. As soon as the hammer struck, a shimmering glow spread from the nail, pulsing like a heartbeat. The wood transformed before his eyes, the rough surface smoothed out, the grain became richer, and intricate carvings appeared on the table's legs, depicting vines and flowers that seemed almost lifelike. Tobias stared, stunned. The simple, worn table had become a work of art. When Liana came to collect her table, she gasped, covering her mouth in astonishment. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "How did you do this?" Tobias could only smile, still in awe himself. "A little magic," he said, unsure what else to call it. Word spread quickly, and soon people from all over the village and even neighbouring ones came to Tobias, asking him to use his magic nail on their furniture. With each use, the nail worked wonders. Battered chairs became ornate thrones, creaky doors turned into grand entranceways, and splintered stools transformed into polished stools with swirling, delicate carvings. Tobias found himself growing wealthy and beloved, though he rarely left his workshop and never truly understood how the nail worked. Yet, as time went on, Tobias began to feel a strange unease. The nail, while miraculous, seemed to demand something from him. Each time he used it, he felt a pang of fatigue, a sense that the nail was drawing from him in some unspoken way. And worse, he began to notice that he no longer felt the joy he once had in his craft. Where before he'd take pride in each hand-chiseled detail, now he felt as if he was merely a spectator in his own workshop, watching as the nail did all the work. One night, unable to sleep, Tobias decided to confront his unease. He took out the nail and stared at it, trying to decipher the strange runes that covered its surface. His grandfather had been a carpenter, yes, but there were whispers that he had dabbled in more mysterious arts. Tobias wondered if he had found himself in over his head. The next day, an elderly man named Edwin visited Tobias. Edwin was poor and frail, living alone on the edge of the village, and his cane had worn thin and broken at the handle. He asked Tobias if he could use his magic to fix it, offering only a few coins he had saved. Tobias, remembering his own roots and the joy of simple work, agreed to help the old man for free. This time, however, he decided he wouldn't use the nail. He took the cane to his workbench and spent hours carving and shaping a new handle, applying a polish made from local herbs and reinforcing it with a bit of metal. When he was done, the cane was simple but sturdy, and Tobias felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in a long time. When Edwin came to collect his cane, his eyes lit up, and he thanked Tobias sincerely. Watching the old man hobble away with his renewed strength, Tobias realized he'd missed the satisfaction of crafting with his own two hands. But just as Tobias turned back to his shop, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. Startled, he stumbled inside and found the nail lying on his workbench, pulsing faintly. It seemed almost angry. As he reached out to touch it, a surge of images filled his mind. Memories of his grandfather working late into the night, his body frail, his hands shaking as he hammered this very nail into countless projects. Tobias realized the nail had consumed his grandfather's life, taking bit by bit of his energy and creativity until there was nothing left. Determined to free himself, Tobias knew he had to get rid of it. He took the nail and hiked deep into the misty mountains, through forests thick with shadows and paths rarely traveled. After hours of climbing, he reached a sheer cliff overlooking the vast valley below. With a deep breath, Tobias hurled the nail off the edge, watching as it disappeared into the mists far below. As he made his way back down the mountain, Tobias felt a weight lift from his chest. He returned to his workshop, where he began anew with a simple plank of wood, a chisel, and his own hands. From that day on, Tobias crafted with even greater care and love. And while his work no longer had the magical perfection the nail once provided, it held something far more precious, his own spirit, which no magic could ever replace. And as for the magic nail, it lay somewhere at the bottom of the misty mountains, waiting patiently for the next soul who might be tempted by its allure.